Hey Zcash folks, I am excited to introduce eZcash, which is the latest Zcash wallet on the block. First, I want to address the simple question of why do we need another one? There's actually several Zcash wallets out there. Several reasons here. eZcash is going to be available everywhere on every desktop OS, every phone, so Android, iPhone, Windows, Mac, and Linux all supported. Very, very similar UI across all of those devices, so you can be comfortable using it wherever you're at. Privacy and usability is in the forefront for this wallet. It is truly designed for you and your non-technical friends and family. You don't have to be a Zcash expert to know what you're doing or even be familiar with cryptocurrency. It exposes features of Zcash that no other wallet does. For example, it can recognize who sent you Zcash even when the sender did not fill out the memo field. There's many more features in eZcash, which are described later in this particular blog page. And previous to releasing eZcash, my favorite wallet was YWallet, but I'm delighted to have switched to eZcash because of its simpler UI, more powerful account features, transaction history, and because of some of the features that are coming soon. In this video, I'll be showing off the acquisition experience and taking you through the basic workflows and showing off some of the features, whether they're unique or just more usable than some other wallets. A link to this page will be included in the video description. An Android version will be available publicly in the next few weeks, and the iPhone version will be out shortly thereafter. So let's start with installing. We have ARM64 and x64 support for all operating systems. I have an x64 Windows machine, so I'll get that installer. Open that up. None of these require elevation, and they all are zero-click installers. We see it's installing immediately. Just takes a few seconds. And then it will immediately launch. It's in my start menu as well. So this is the introductory screen to eZcash. We can check out the license if we want. There's some settings and tools, but let's just start by creating a new wallet. And we're done. We're encouraged to back up our wallet, but that's not a blocking screen. We can see we can receive Zcash. We'll have a send when we have some Zcash to send. We've got a balance view and a history view. So let's start by backing up our wallet. Now, in fact, every Zcash wallet that I'm aware of will only do what I'm calling exporting of a wallet. So you've got your seed phrase, for example. And we also show the viewing key, so you can see the full viewing key and the incoming viewing key for more advanced scenarios like view-only wallets, cold wallets, things like that. Tells you what your birthday height is. So in addition to, and in fact preferable to this typical export screen, we have the backup feature where you actually can back up to a file. Now the reason this is so much better is not only, the file will include much, much more than just your seed phrase. It will actually include all of the blockchain that has been synced so far in a small compact format, so that if you have to restore this to another device or to this computer after it has been formatted or something, you don't have to resync the whole blockchain. It just comes down and is immediately available. Over here in the receive screen, it's, well, first of all, notice too, there's no balance displayed here. And there's a very intentional reason for that. In fact, most screens don't display your balance because you tend to show people your wallet app while you're exchanging, especially on a phone, right? If you're paying someone else Zcash, you've both got your phones out, you've both got your Zcash wallets out. If you've ever done this before, you've probably seen the other person's balance by accident. You really shouldn't be displaying your balance front and center on most of these screens unless you really, really want to see it. And so there's no balance here. On the receive screen, it doesn't jump straight to a QR code, and there's a reason for that. In fact, there's no QR code on the home screen either. And the reason for that is because eZcash always uses a diversified address. And preferably, we connect that diversified address to the identity of the person you're going to show it to so that you can recognize payments coming in from them later. So let's say you're showing it to Bob down the street. Who are you sharing this address with? Bob. Show my address. Now, this receiving address is for Bob. It's only for Bob, because when you receive payments from this address, or at this address, it's going to say it's from Bob. So you can copy this and email it to him, or he can scan the QR code, whatever. Other thing, we're all shielded by default in multiple ways. So this address has no transparent receiver. There's not going to be any transparent funds coming in. It's unified, so it's a combined orchard and sapling pool. Now that's more technical than your friend or family member who you want to get using Zcash is going to know or care about, which is why we are secure by default. But if this is a unified address. If you specifically need a sapling address, you can get one. There's a sapling address with obviously just a sapling receiver. And if you really, really need just a transparent address, for example, to receive money from an exchange, you can always click on transparent and get a standard T address. And once you've clicked this, Bob is recorded to have seen this address as well. And so Bob in your address book is recorded so that any money received at any of these addresses will be correlated with Bob. So let's go over here and look at the address book. There's Bob. And it says this contact has seen your diversified address. And if you ever needed to see it again, you can show that same address again. But notice, so here's an example, 01GX3. Let's just go back home and do receiving again. This time we're not going to bother saying who we're just looking. That's not 01GX3 anymore. That's G9Y, right? So every single time you get an address, it's unique. Unless you say, I'm sharing it with Bob. Oh, look, there's Bob. And there it is, 01GX3 again. So it remembers in your address book, and this is another reason why you want to back up to file instead of just your seed phrase, because there's a lot of value in this wallet that isn't recorded on the blockchain. You can also use this like a merchant. You can say, I want to receive 15 ZEC. Thank you for your purchase. So you can actually use this inside of a shop that accepts Zcash. Memo suggests this is the memo that they will send to you, but that's also the memo that they're going to see for themselves on their transaction. So this could be 2 cakes. And this is your friendly cakes store. Show me the invoice. Boom. So this QR code is no longer just a receiving address. It's actually a Zcash payment request URI. And you can copy this and send this to somebody, and eZcash can receive these as well. If you click on one of these things, it will pop up the payment screen. And in fact, I'll show you. Let's do this together. Let's go back to the home screen. In fact, we could close the window completely. Let's just paste this in. It's opening up the eZcash app. There we go. So it got, it says 0 and GX3 because we said it was Bob who was going to get this. And there's the 15 ZEC and the 2 cakes and the message, thank you for your purchase. And we're recording this as your friendly cakes. Now, notice a couple other things. First of all, we've got a nice subtotal here. We show what you're actually sending versus the network fee that's going to be charged and how much total you're going to be have to pay. And notice too, there's always an exchange rate. So you know the value of what you're going to send. If your mom or dad or somebody who's not Zcash thoroughly into things, doesn't know what 15 Zcash are worth, that's fine. It says so right here. In fact, you can change this to whatever your local fiat currency is in the settings. You can change this to euros or pesos or whatever it is you want to do. Now, in this case, of course, we're showing that I don't have any Zcash in this wallet because it's empty, so I can't actually make this payment. But notice what's not shown. We don't show the balance, and there's no slider to say, oh, I want to send 30% of my Zcash or 60% of my Zcash, because again, that gives away information to somebody else who's probably looking at your screen with you, or at least has a shot at looking at it. Really shouldn't show balance without asking. So we just say, hey, go look at the balance view. So let's go look at the balance view. Obviously, it's 0 ZEC. So we'll make that more interesting here in a minute. We also see the exchange rate right now. It's 1926 US dollars. And we can actually switch the currency, and instead of seeing ZEC, we can see the balance in US dollars. Again, we'll switch wallets in a second and make that more interesting. We also have an accounts view. Now, this is where we get into something a little more interesting. Notice we actually have two accounts, Zec and Taz. So Zec is the ticker symbol for Zcash. Taz is the ticker symbol for Zcash on the testnet network. Taz is worthless. It's not worth anything at all. But it's a good opportunity to practice with Zcash, and I'll show you that in a little bit as well. But when we go to receive, notice I can choose which account we'll be receiving, and we've been using Zec so far. But if I switch to Taz, then I have a different kind of address that is only for Taz, not Zcash. And a warning here at the top says the account you have selected uses the test network. Zcash on the test network has no value, so that you can't be accidentally fooled into accepting 5 Taz instead of 5 Zcash. Also, a lot of Zcash wallets don't let you really create multiple accounts. This is trivially easy. If you want a new account, you say new account, and do you want it to be real Zcash or another Taz account? So we'll just go ahead and hit create for another Zcash account. So now we've got our original one at account index 0. If you're familiar with zip32, we also have account 1 or account index 1, and so we can switch between them, and they have independent balances. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to switch to a set of test accounts that I have, so we actually have some non-zero, non-empty things that we can look at. So here I've restarted the app with a different wallet. Right away, it looks just as simple. I want to start drawing your attention to this indicator, though. It's letting us know that it's searching for our transactions, which is a human language way of saying we're syncing the blockchain. But again, we're going for ease of use. We don't want people to have to be Zcash experts to be able to use Zcash, right? PayPal and a lot of these other wallets will use as close to human language as possible because they want to get as many users actually using PayPal as possible. We should be doing the same with Zcash. We shouldn't be using all these technical terms that were created originally for Bitcoin. So if I click on this, I get to see details. We're 18% synced on the blockchain from the last time I opened up these particular accounts. And so this is where you do potentially get exposed to some of the details if you want. You see the testnet account is fully synced, but our mainnet account, we're still 30,000. We're moving along quickly. We only have 13,000 blocks left to sync. And this indicator is going to change right now. It's kind of a green yellowish pulsating. And it just switched to green. So we're now fully synced. Now let's zoom in a little bit more and get some more details on this. Take a look at history. We've got some interesting things here. This is our Taz account. We can see that. This is so it's a testnet. And we see we've got our initial transaction here on September 9th, 2023. Notice what you don't see here. There's no block number here because users don't understand block numbers. That's a technical detail of the protocol. It's not important to service to the user. What they care about is when did it happen. So there's the date. And we also have a running balance column, which is something I've never seen in any other Zcash app, and yet it's in every other piece of financial software. Every single one talks about the impact, whether it's an addition or a subtraction from the account, and then what the running balance is. So we can see here, you got 127, and then you add 10, so now it's 10.127, and so you go. So there's some deposits, obviously, and some withdrawals or spends, and you can go in here and see some details. You've got, in this case, there was no memo, and you can see how the breakdown was. This was what was deducted from the account, but you can see -1 Taz was due to sending, and then the fraction of a Taz was because of the network fee. Now, there's something else here. In addition to the shared memo, which you're sharing privately with the other person, there's also a mutable private memo. So you can say, this was just a test. And then that is recorded with that transaction in your wallet file. Again, why you want to back up your wallet file, not just the seed phrase, because there's additional information. And this, again, is just what users expect. Given a financial app, they expect to be able to tag it and so they can remember things or keep notes for themselves about what that transaction is all about. Now, if we wanted to, we could turn on show protocol details and then the block number and the transaction ID show up. But non-technical friends aren't going to care about that, so we don't scare them with that. In fact, we may even take away recipient when we know who it is. In this case, we don't know who it was because this testnet account I didn't care about address books. But if this were a transaction with somebody in your address book, it would show up here, and it probably wouldn't even show the recipient address here because, again, no one's going to recognize this. This is deliberately obfuscated, and so there's no reason to actually show it. Then there's splits. These are transactions with multiple recipients. And so you can see here, and each one can have their own memo, which it was in this case. Each one can have its own name because they can be sent to different people. In this case, this account sent 0.5 TAS, distributed across 2 different people, and then just paid the standard network fee. So that's history for you. Now, if we go over and let's take a look at balance here. So now we've got a more interesting non-zero balance. So we've got 5.97512 TAS. That's actually, that's big and bold and front and center because that's what people should be focusing on. The nitty-gritties, which are shown here only as they apply, there's actually 4 or 5 different rows that can appear here depending on whether they apply. We don't scare people with more information than they need or more complexity, right? We want to grow with them. So eZcash is a powerful wallet, but it's also a very simple wallet. And as you need more features, it just kind of lights up. So the actual spendable balance is a little bit higher than this number here. And you can see the math. It's lined up just like you would do in a vertical sum in your math class. So you've got this as your total, and then you've got a subtraction, which is anticipated fees, because to actually spend this, this money is held in 2 individual notes in this case. And so presumably you have to pay a higher network fee per zip 316, I think. And so it's telling you, although this is your balance, you can expect to not be able to send all of that to somebody else. And so this is the final balance. There's one other thing we can do, which comes up a lot, at least for me. I've never seen a wallet offer this option, and this eZcash does, which is that my address? Or is that your address? Like, what is this address? What do I know about this address? So let's just grab an address for now. Let's go to receive. I'm just looking. Let's grab this address. Okay. Now suppose later on down the road, you come across this address and you're wondering, is this mine? And remember, we can actually support multiple accounts. So knowing that it's yours isn't enough. Which account is it associated with? So we've got this tool, address check. And I can come in here and paste that address in. And what do you know? It recognizes it. We've matched it to an account, and it's our testnet account, which is over here in accounts, testnet. So now we know this address is good for receiving money on our testnet account. If you had several accounts, it would tell you which one. And if it was a friend's account, or a friend's address, one that was in your address book, it would tell you that too. So this is great. Let's run through a send situation. Click send. Now I do happen to have my own address in there, so I can paste that in. By the way, I can also just type in, if in this wallet I don't have Bob anymore, so let's go ahead and pretend I've got a Bob friend here. And I'll give him an address. Now that happens to be my address, but that'll suit my purpose just fine. So let's go send Bob. Oh, look at that. See, I don't have to know Zcash addresses. I don't have to copy and paste them necessarily. I can just select Bob as my recipient, and I can send him 1 TAS. This is a memo I share with the recipient, so I can say, hey, Bob, thanks for the meal. Here's my portion. Now, again, the app grows with you. So I can just hit send and be done. Or, I know, by the way, the exchange rate isn't shown because this is TAS. It's worthless, right? It even has that warning up here saying, hey, it has no value. If this were Zcash I was actually sending, then there would be the exchange rate over here. And an exchange rate over here showing the total that I was sending was 1 ZEC, and each ZEC being $19, and so it would show that there. But I can also say, add line item, and also pay Sally and send her something, and all of that would go as one transaction. Now that's useful, and it's good to have it just so easily accessible, because if you're at a reunion and you're paying off people for your food or whatever, you've got to pay several people at once, or maybe you're going through your bills, and we're in some utopian future where all of your utilities can be paid in Zcash. So you actually want to pay 3 bills at once. Well, if you pay one at a time, not only are you waiting for each transaction to compute each time you send, but Zcash privacy rules being what they are, you have to wait after sending each Zcash payment before the change from that payment that comes back to you can be spent again. And so if you send several payments in one transaction, that actually dramatically speeds up your process. So this is both accessible and not intimidating. Then I can make, this is where I leave my own private memo. Bob's a real jerk. You know, it's not shared with anybody. This is your mutable field. So later when Bob's a nice guy, you can actually say his real good friend, you know, whatever. And I can hit send. And now it's computing the Zcash proof. There it is. One task sent successfully. And here it's ready for me to send another one if I wanted to. But I can come over here to history. And there's the TAS that I just sent. Bob's a really good friend. Thanks for the meal. Everything we'd expect there. In balance, we don't yet have mempool support. So what you're seeing here is the latest on the actual blockchain, because the transaction that I just sent hasn't been mined yet. Now, we don't want to have to conflate all of those technical details with every eZcash user. So we want this to have an immediate feedback of, hey, certain funds are tied up right now, or on the way out, or something like that. A new blockchain was a new block was just mined on the chain. So now we see something interesting. Your balance is now my balance is actually the same because I sent it to myself, because remember Bob's address was actually mine. So that's why my balance didn't go down significantly by one TAS, which it almost would have. But I want you to see some other things. Notice the spendable amount went down. Now, some Zcash wallets will actually show this as your balance, which freaks people out. And the reason it's so much lower is because, remember how I said I had 2 notes of Zcash that I could spend? One of them got spent, and it can't be spent again. But the change, the excess on that note that didn't go to Bob comes back to me as another note, but I can't spend it yet. In fact, I call that tied up in this wallet. This is recent spends can tie up some of your Zcash for a few minutes. It actually needs between 3 and 10 confirmations before the anonymity rules of Zcash suggest that we can go ahead and spend that note. So the 2.9999 is the leftovers of the prior note that isn't yet spendable. But we can see that what's spendable and what's tied up, which is definitely going to come back to me, adds up to this amount when you also consider the fact that there's some anticipated fees to be paid. So again, users can just focus on the balance and not freak out that, oh my gosh, what happened to why did my balance go down so much more than what I spent? You know, it's easy to use. And in a few moments, as more blocks are mined, we'll be able to, this will go away and spendable will go back up. And there's some other rows that can show up too for incoming funds that haven't cleared yet. In this case, it doesn't show incoming funds because we actually sent it, so we trust ourselves. But if the transaction was coming from somebody else and hadn't been adequately confirmed, or they sent you transparent funds that needed to be shielded, this is the other end of the auto shielding in this application. Yes, you can give a transparent address to somebody if you really want to, as I showed you earlier, but if they do send you transparent funds, it will be, as soon as this wallet opens up, it'll see those transparent funds and it will immediately shield them to keep. There's no shield funds button like other wallets will have. And that's the better one. Some of them don't have a shield option at all. You have to explicitly transmit funds to a shielded address. But this is all automatic because that's the way it should be. Everybody should always have shielded funds. Now, the last thing I want to show you is the other part of the acquisition story for this wallet. If you go to About, we can see the version and options to donate, get support, and learn about wallet capabilities. We'll get to in a minute. But you also see the version, and notice that this app is self-updating on the pre-release Windows x64 channel. And a confirmation that we are, in fact, running the latest version. If there was a new version available, it would say so on the home screen. It would actually download the update and offer you a button to just click once and it'll restart the app with the new version. And if you just close the app, next time you open it, it'll be the new version. So you can't run the old version. It's always self-updating, so you're always getting the latest updates, so features and security updates. So your non-technical friends who are using Zcash won't get stuck with a wallet that's a year old, that was the one you put on their device and they've never updated it since. This will stay current with what they want, which is the latest features. The other thing this wallet does, and this may be incorporated in the zip that describes what all wallets should do, is it actually identifies its wallet capabilities. So this wallet supports internal keys for shielding and change, which actually makes internal or incoming viewing keys do what they're supposed to do, which is not show outgoing funds. We support Zip32 HD wallets properly. Some wallets that I won't name, including my favorite one, doesn't do multiple accounts in a Zip32 compliant format. It actually mixes up addresses across accounts, which is really scary. So this one does that properly. Multiple accounts per seed phrase, multiple recipient spends, automatic shielded pool balancing is a feature I'd love to get, but we don't have that yet. And multi-account sourced transactions is not yet supported. That's a very advanced scenario, and really, I don't know that I'll ever expose it as a capability in the app, but it should be able to read long transaction histories. If you import your seed phrase from another wallet into this one, and that other wallet, Zec Wallet Lite in particular, supported it would not discriminate about which accounts the funds came from. Zcash D, I think, does this. No, not Zcash D, but Zec Wallet would not care about which address or which account the funds were coming from. It would just send it from all of them, and that can confuse account histories for other wallet applications. So that's coming. Of course, we don't support Sprout because that's totally deprecated, but we do support the other three, and so indicating that we can spend and receive on those things is useful, and this kind of a declaration of capability should be front and center on a wallet app, and it should be available. Like when you're reviewing all the Zcash apps on a store listing, you should be able to see, well, which ones offer which features, which ones are compatible with where the pool where my funds currently are, so that you can make an informed decision. Finally, we do disclose here where we keep your wallet, and in this case, we let you know it is encrypted, actually. So even if other user accounts are on this same desktop OS, and even if they have access to your files, they can't decrypt your wallet because it's encrypted with OS level encryption that's tied to your specific user account. At present, that is only available on Windows. I'm hoping to expand that. So that is eZcash in a nutshell. I hope you enjoy it. I'd love for you to give it a try. Again, the link should be in the description of the video, so you can go download it, try it yourself. There's also links in that blog post and in the app itself to get support. And it's whether it's questions and answers, bugs you want to report, or you just have questions or suggestions, all of that is welcome on that Discord server. So I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you love it.